This week, Mexico elected its first woman leader, Claudia Sheinbaum, and her party, Morena, in a landslide. She's widely seen as a protege of outgoing populist President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, or AMLO, who's ruled since 2018. But my next guest says it is a win for autocracy disguised as a democracy. Denise has been closely studying Mexico's politics for decades. She's a professor of political science at the Autonomous Technological Institute of Mexico and a columnist for the Mexican newspaper Reforma. Denise, welcome. What you talk about is the way in which under AMLO, and now where your fear is it gets reinforced, there has been a real degradation of Mexico's democracy. Explain what you mean.
Well, Morena and Claudia Sheinbaum won by a landslide with 60% of the vote, leaving the opposition in the dust. And this was a mandate for what Andrés Manuel López Obrador promoted throughout his presidency and led him to campaign with and for Claudia Sheinbaum. On the one hand, the election was a reflection of material benefits, increases in the minimum wage, cash transfers to the poor, and a manifestation of a very unequal society that feels that this president, newly elected, and the previous one have actually listened to the people. But what the election has done is put Mexico in a situation, or consolidate the situation that it's been over the last several years of democratic erosion, where socioeconomic rights win a majority, and political and economic rights that one associates with a functional democracy will probably be eliminated. The plan on which Claudia Sheinbaum campaigned was, for example, popular vote for justices of the Supreme Court, popular vote for all of the counselors of the Autonomous Electoral Institute, the permanent militarization of Mexico, which has increased under President López Obrador. So basically the elimination of checks and balances on a party that has now become a hegemonic party.
And the argument is that these are the obstacles in the way of him being able to provide even more largesse, right? It's a populist argument that I can solve all these problems if you get rid of all these institutions and all these other checks and balances on me that are blocking my way.
Yes, the argument is all of those institutions are an obstacle. They're a legacy from neoliberal, elitist, oligarchical rule, a democracy that only served elites, and those checks and balances have impeded López Obrador from carrying out his true agenda.
AMLO, and now it seems that that his successor, are giving more and more power that used to be held by civil authorities, by local police, by the police, to the army. And when we think of the army, certainly the case that we know famously, a former defense minister being arrested by the US DEA because he was so corrupt and so in cahoots with the drug cartels. This doesn't seem like a good idea if you're trying to fight, these drug cartels. Why has the army been given so much power?
Well, this is one of the reasons why some of us have argued that Mexico's incipient democracy is truly under threat now. Because, as you well know, democracy and militarization do not coexist. The only countries that give hundreds of activities that used to be in the hands of civilians to the military that basically acts as a parallel government with no civilian control are countries that are authoritarian regimes. Militarization in Mexico started in the 2000s, but López Obrador accelerated the pace to a degree that is unprecedented in Mexican history. The military today runs businesses, controls the airspace, 18 airports, ports, immigration. And I think that López Obrador delegated so much power to the military because he wanted to do away with civilian institutions. He's actually cut the size of the Mexican state.
Finally, it seems to me that the United States has decided that it needs Mexico to manage its southern border, and that López Obrador has been reasonably willing to do that. And that as a result, whether it's Trump or Biden, the United States is not in any way pushing back on this democratic decay. Would that be fair?
That would be a correct interpretation. I think that